Hello. Hello. Hello, everyone, and welcome to an episode of the Screen Chronicles. I'm Steve, and with me, as always, is Rimsky Biscuit. And today we are talking
No,
about
no,
episodes
no.
5 and 6 of The Winter King, the show that is streaming on MGM Plus, based off of Bernard Cornwell's books, the guy who wrote The Last Kingdom. So we're talking about it. We're going to recap the episode, give you some spoiler thoughts on everything, and help clarify who's Gungali this and Gung Ford that and this kind of name and such. And we'll get that all cleared up for you today, and tell you our best bro moments and best moments and
Yeah,
all that classic Screen Chronicles stuff that you just love.
absolutely. So yeah, we are covering Winter King here. By the way, my name's Colby. It's not Rimsky Biscuit. And yeah, episodes 5 and 6. So if you want to hear our thoughts on episodes 1 through 4, we put those all out in 2 different episodes. Check it out. We're gonna stick within these 2 episodes today and anything before. So you might get spoilers for the previous episodes and these episodes, but we won't talk about anything after because we have seen past today's episodes, but we're not going to talk about it. So don't worry about that. But we have read the books that The Winter King is based on by Bernard Cornwell. So we do know some of the events of the books. We will try not to give too many spoilers for that. But Steve, what did you think of these 2 episodes without any spoilers?
I'm liking it. Again, if you listen to other talks, there's some things I've been like, well, why isn't this mentioned? And why is this? And they're still doing some things differently, but there's some cool stuff from the books.
But we get, might I say, without saying anything spoiler, we do get one of those things we've been complaining about checked off.
Yeah, actually,
in one of these episodes. So
I
episode
think
6.
couple.
Episode 6.
Episode 6 gets
at least
1, 2, or 3 of them. And I'll bring those up when we get to them too. But yeah, it's so I'm a little more chill with it because if like The Last Kingdom sometimes would really change things. They'd combine characters, they'd redo the order. Again, I think the books that this show's based off of are a little tighter, and there's some more real plot driven things that I was worried weren't going to get mentioned. And it seems like some of those things they're bringing in, they're just bringing them in sort of a different way. Maybe even 4 things. We'll talk about that here. A lot of stuff happens in episode 6. Like a lot of those things that I've been complaining about. I'm like, well, why wasn't Merlin the one to do this or whatever? And a lot of that happens in episode 6. I still generally just don't like, and I've already ranted about this. I have nothing wrong with the guy who plays Merlin, other than he's not old. And it's just the writing of Merlin is. I want Merlin to be an asshole who is just.
This is from the books.
He is.
So Merlin in the books is hilarious.
Yeah, and hilarious. He's a hilarious asshole.
He's hilarious because he insults everyone. Like every time something comes out of his mouth, it's like just at someone's expense. And this Merlin doesn't have that vibe about him. And I don't know if he's going to grow into that. He's really nice and seems like caring about.
He's obsessed with the gods, like the Britain gods. It's a little different than the books, but that's part still true. But that's the one thing I really wanted to see in the
snappiness.
I think if you
impatience.
Just got the right actor for that, like some old guy who just burns everybody and just acts
thinks he's better than everyone.
That's what I wanted. And and we just got this young guy who is nice to everyone. And he's just so different. And Morgan
it's different.
Is pretty different too. She's not scarred and she's pretty nice.
Somehow
too.
Though, yeah, she's nice and it's definitely different than the books.
But she's not as major as Merlin,
exactly,
though, for me.
Yeah.
But everyone else,
I mean, I think that's a reason why I like the book so much is because of Merlin's character. It was such a unique character. I remember rereading it and just not being able to wait until Merlin showed up in the books. I just couldn't wait because I remember how much I enjoyed it reading it the first time. But with some of those changes and things that we might not like, I think overall I am really enjoying the show.
I enjoy it too, for sure.
You know, and getting into episodes 5 and 6, we start to get the ball rolling with some of the major plot points of the book, especially with episode 6 here. So it's exciting to see those things start to take place. I'm growing to love, I should say, the portrayal of Dervil. I like how they're doing it. The actor, every episode grows on me more, and I like how in the beginning, again, this is not giving a spoiler or anything, but he's definitely naive. He's definitely, he has ambition, but he's got a lot to learn. And it seems like every episode he learns something new, and like he grows, and we see a lot of character development from him in these episodes. So it's exciting. And Arthur, Arthur's been great. He's
I
been
think did a good job.
a formidable mind. Formidable mind, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Physically, maybe make him taller and a little more built is like how I pictured him from the books. But like the character wise, I feel like he's been pretty spot on.
He's been spot on. Like just with his mind and how he carries himself, like despite his stature, is definitely like, I guess formidable again is the word. Like, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy,
Just
he seems very
the best guy,
confident in himself. Yeah, he's wise. He's wise for a younger type character, and we know he's traveled and he's seen parts of the world, and he's learned a lot. So I don't know if I have anything else to add in this non-spoiler review, other than I think episode 5 was a good episode. I'm not sure there's been a bad episode. And episode 6 was a great episode.
It was slower, not as much action happening, but
right.
I was still pretty interested. There was a lot of sort of like bro moments throughout that, and some sort of like relationship sprinkles that's going to set up some stuff. And
and I think if this is going to be our slower episodes, we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I wasn't bored.
Nah, it didn't feel like just political nonsense, uninteresting stuff. I was interested in this slower episode.
Anyway, since Steve is so keen on getting into spoiler talk,
yes,
let's get into spoiler talk. Spoiler warning. You've been warned. Let's do it. Not you. The people, our listeners, our lovely listeners.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, I already knew what we were going to talk about, I guess.
Anyway, if you remember from last episode, Dervil and Owain had been a part of, Owain kind of drove this mission to go to a tin mine, and they were going to just try to steal the tin, but they ended up killing everyone. And Owain is trying to keep that a secret, and comes back to Carrickadern with more money than expected on their trip. They were supposed to go around collecting taxes and things. Yeah, and he even tries to pay off Dervil to not say anything. Gives him some coin.
You could tell when he handed Dervil the coin that like Dervil kind of looked at it like this is like blood money. And we have to think about people back then didn't think like us now.
No.
If you wanted shit and somewhere had that shit and they weren't your people, like you could take that, but it bothered Dervil. They come back, and Arthur, I think, kind of picks up on that, but then he's happy because their kingdom of Dumnonia here needs some money because the Saxons are invading. It's kind of interesting to think of the Saxons invading when we were in the last kingdom, the Saxons were the people who were being invaded by the Danes,
right.
But anywho, and
well,
the explanation,
no,
but the explanation for why they have so much more money is like, oh well, it's because he did owe so much more money from before. That's why we took more. And you can tell Arthur's kind of like, I don't know about this, but okay, happy about it,
Yeah.
whatever.
Well, Arthur remains skeptical throughout the episode of this. Something isn't quite adding up
Mhm.
to that. Um, Again, Arthur, it's tough to get stuff by him when
Yeah.
he's laser focused, and he is right now. He's laser focused on trying to unite the kingdoms, right?
Mhm.
And he's been having this problem with Gunleus, and he had let Gunleus go, and everybody was upset, so that he could bring back um, his uncle, who was the king of Paris, and he had come in the last episode, and we had a cool showdown between Arthur and him, um, and then with Gunleus as well, when Gunleus tries to attack, and Arthur using Excalibur, which he had found,
He doesn't know it's
just
Excalibur yet.
just
He just thought it
he
was a
doesn't. He's just like,
big
it's just a
old
cool sword.
blocky sword. It's interesting too how
But he's
how
got
they've
this
done that.
weird connection with it, like he feels something.
Hmm.
Um, which is cool, because I like that. It's not so like it's not like the sun came down and
That's
like an angel started singing. It's sort of like he just came, like, always looks at it and gets a feeling.
and like you
I
get
like that.
people get that. You know what I mean? Like there's things we just have connections to and we don't know why. And I'm sure you could
Yeah,
like
I
explain
like
some
that.
sort of like evolutionary
I
reason
like
why.
that really shitty looking sword.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
People just like
and
that.
yeah,
And it's
it's
kind
cool.
of cool. Yeah, like you said, and that's what I like about the books and Bernard Cornwell's writing in general. He never like completely dips into fantasy stuff. It's always like this could be natural. So that's why again, I was a little frustrated that like Merlin is like straight up using the force in that one episode. You know what I
Mm,
mean?
yeah,
And so I like this sort of like natural, like there's this connection. But it's not like
right.
the light came down or anything like that.
And it's a pretty awesome sword. I mean, look what it did on like just the first swipe. And
Broke.
he felt something different there
Mm,
when it made connection, right?
mm.
So anyway, um, so Gorfith is his name, King of Powers,
Gorfefid.
and what's that?
I think it's Gorfefid is like how you say it.
Gorfethid, yeah,
Well, at
Gorfeth,
least how
yeah,
they did in the books. I think that's how they say it in the show too.
I think so, yeah. And that I think that encounter with Arthur earned like his respect a little bit, because he
Yeah.
kind of tried to come into Arthur's house and boss him around and
Mm,
boss people around, and Arthur like put his foot down and is like, not here. So that was cool. And so they go on a fishing trip together. He had actually locked Gunleus up again. Um,
after he broke his
and yeah,
sword.
after he broke his sword. Um, and basically Gorfethid is like talking to Arthur about how he needs to prove himself through actions if he wants to unite all the tribes here, because we actually learn a little bit more about what's happening. We know that there's Saxon invaders, but it's while they're fishing that Arthur, like, his spidey sense goes off, and he like looks into the woods, and
Just this
he
guy just
catches
like shitting behind these bushes. And they're
yeah.
wouldn't that have been funny?
Yeah. And he catches this Saxon spy. Um, oh, by the way, when they were talking, I think Gorfethid told Arthur that he did order Gunleus um, to not burn down Avalon, which Gunleus did, but to burn down Carcadern. So
That's right.
he's being straight up with him.
Yeah,
He's being,
he does.
you know,
It's they have kind of some bonding here. But then I think I don't know if he straight up says this. He later says it at one point. He's like, I didn't tell you to murder a baby and to rape a druid and do all this other
to
crazy.
Gunleus. To Gunleus.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But so
That's what
Gunleus, he's still alive. But anyway, yeah.
that's
So
what Gorfethid say to Gunleus, right?
yeah.
Right.
So then they
Like, don't kill a queen. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Damn, yeah. And so they catch the Saxon spy, and he says, and Durfel translates, because he's Saxon, or he was born a Saxon, raised by Britons, and he says that King Ael will kill them all, and then he kills himself. He goes Harry Carey, But I like that they're setting up this King Ale, which is pretty cool. And if you read the books, there's some cool connection stuff there too. Later
I
down
like
the
how
line.
they build him up. I like how they build him up without seeing him, and
Yep.
I can't wait to see him. But yeah. So anyway, I think they find a map from the spy, and what I think what this
That's
lends
right.
itself to doing is really making Gorfethid and Arthur realize that it is in both of their best interests to form a bond.
Yeah.
Right, because now they know what they're trying to do, and that's where eventually they're going to discuss how they can form a bond, and it does happen within these 2 episodes, but they decide marriage is one way to do that. Gorfethid happens to have a beautiful daughter around the same age as Arthur, so this should work out very nicely.
I think they actually said she was pretty young. I think.
Oh, is she younger?
I think she's a lot younger than him. I think they might have said. Well, I mean, they never straight up said how old Arthur is.
Well, the actors look the same.
The actors are obviously like the same age, but I think they said that Kynwyn is like
right.
14 years old, and I was like, "Damn, Arthur's a man."
Different times,
completely different times.
So anyway, that's later on. But
also,
the whole deal in this episode. Yeah, go ahead.
Morgan and Bishop Bedwin and Arthur's, they're all planning Mordred's naming ceremony. And then Morgan wants to have a human sacrifice. Arthur's against it. as you should.
As is tradition.
As is tradition. Do they make the sacrifice? Yeah, I think they do the sacrifice in this.
They do.
I just didn't write it down.
It's lovely.
Yeah, so they do eventually have the sacrifice. It was a pleasant one. But she goes to Merlin first.
Not for the sacrifice.
Wait, what?
Not for the
sacrificant?
The cross. Yeah, I don't know.
The sacrificee?
Sacrificee was not.
I think he wasn't voluntary. So eventually they do have the naming ceremony, and she decides to go through to sacrifice, and it's some thief or something, and kills him.
But Merlin had made a political statement here to not show up.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
This was like all over the TMZ and everything. It was a big deal.
Isn't that funny?
Had like an empty seat with his name on it.
That's like a thing back then. It's like, I mean, it's still kind of a thing today. If like you invited all your coworkers out and like one of them didn't show up, and it's like someone you've been, but it's
a pretty big deal if you have the future king who's having a ceremony and your head sorcerer or a head, what do they refer to him as?
I think he's a druid. They go by druid still.
Yeah, head druid doesn't show up. Like that's kind of that's not a good thing.
It's not a good look. It's not a good look.
Not a good look.
But Marge is still like a baby, so he's not gonna notice. But like the sacrifice, I think, was a little more intense than Morgan thought it was gonna be. And that was a pretty gnarly sacrifice. So she just like guts him, and he's like just screaming the whole time. Everyone else seems kind of uncomfortable. But again, like people back then, man, like
halfway through they just put it down and like, why do we even do this? And everyone was like, yeah, why? And they're just like, let's just not do it anymore.
Isn't that weird? Like they didn't have that like common like courtesy back I mean, probably some people did.
Gods, man, it's for the gods. I mean, the power of religion back then, like I don't know if it's easy for us to comprehend,
Social
but anyway,
politics now.
Yeah. But yeah, so the reason why Merlin Nimue didn't go is because Merlin had the vision that Mordred gonna kill everybody. Mordred is going to kill a lot of people. He basically, whenever he like touches Mordred, he sees like just dread, just blood and suffering, and
just like.
And Merlin wants to kill that baby.
He definitely wants to kill that baby.
He wants to kill that baby. He's actually practiced a lot of restraint, and I still make the argument that Book Merlin would have stabbed that baby in a second.
I know if if
Book
Merlin had
would have
that vision,
he wouldn't have asked permission.
No, he would have just been like, "Oh,
Like-
and of course I threw away the baby Darvel. Of course I did."
And Book Book Morgan also would not have had an issue doing a sacrifice.
No.
She just
She'd be like, "Of course,
Anyway.
of course, I get."
I like Morgan in this though. Funny enough, I think it's because like her character is obviously way more likable in the show than the book. Where like with Merlin in the book, it's like I liked his character. I didn't particularly like him all the time, but I liked his character a lot. And that's kind of what I wanted to emulate. I'm more okay with them changing Morgan's character. I don't think that's hypocritical. I don't think it is because of the prominence of Merlin in the book. But
Merlin was
maybe it is. I don't know.
A much bigger role than Morgan. He's one of like when you talk about Arthur legends, he's essential in that. Whether you're talking,
so is Morgan Le Fay.
Yeah. Well,
she's essential too.
Yeah, you're right.
But I think, who knows? Morgan could potentially change later on into her nasty self.
Well, I guess in the books, at least. I mean, she has a pretty decent role, but it's not as active as she is in this, I guess.
I'll tell you what I didn't expect was for her and Bishop Edwin to have a relationship that they start to build in these episodes, like a love interest type relationship.
Didn't see that coming.
That was not in the books. So that is interesting. And anyway, we'll get to that more. So remember Nimue had been raped by Gunlaeus. And she definitely does not want to have that child. And she, with her druid ways, she knows how she can have an abortion. And she goes to do that. And Merlin even supports it. So yeah. Now, do you have anything else to add?
It was just kind of hypocritical of him to be like, like when he's like, let's just like sneaking around waiting for her to make out Durfel, and he's like, you can't do that. And then like gets raped, and he's like, that's all right. Like I was like, this is very convenient. Like, and again, like Merlin in books wasn't doing that dumb shit. He didn't care if Nimue got with Durfel or not. It's Nimue who wanted to be like Merlin.
Powerful. Yeah.
And
exactly.
And did not want she just didn't want to be
that
distracted.
definitely comes across big time in this.
Yeah,
and she's doing a wonderful job.
But it wasn't like being with someone will in itself negate it. It was just that she was so focused on what she wanted to do, she couldn't be what Durfel wanted her to be. That's like it wasn't.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. But I think that comes across because Durfel still loves her and wants her, and because she's focused on what she has to do. And obviously we talked last episode about how like that was one of the first steps for her to become who she needs to be, to have to go through that kind of trauma. So that's what she believes.
Mentioned that yet. They still haven't mentioned the 3 wounds of wisdom, which I wish they would.
Now, I wish they would too. But even if they just do it though, if they do it and they're there, I'll be satisfied with that.
Yeah, I guess so.
Anyway, Durfel, we talked about how he's learning to become a warrior every episode. And by the way, he's like in Owain's band because Owain was the first guy he sort of gave some loyalty to. Like if you remember, Durfel got caught whacking wood in in the training room.
Yeah. He went in there to beat that wood every night.
He was beating that wood.
And Owain was always like, do you come in here every night to do that? Bad habit.
Beat your wood. Yeah.
Durfel's like, it's natural.
It's natural.
It's not. What do you mean a bad habit? Why are you trying to shame me for coming in here?
But back then, yeah. And this is back when we thought Owain was cool. And Owain's like, look, if you take care of my horses, I'll teach you how to fight. And we never really see Owain teach him how to fight ever.
Yeah.
But anyway. So anyway, I think a couple episodes ago, like Arthur Dervil told Arthur, "I want to be part of your crew."
Hmm.
Arthur was cool with it. Arthur was like, but then Owain was like, no, 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 you're supposed to be with me. Like I had you first. And so here you have Dervil, who is like working with Owain. We like Owain less and less every episode. Obviously, after he um, killed a bunch of innocent tin workers, that was not very cool. And Dervil is also liking him less and less, wishing he was more in the noble Arthur side of things. But regardless, um, I told you Dervil's learning something new every episode, and in this episode, Dervil learned not to leave any survivors, even if they're children, because he did, and that comes back to haunt them.
Whoopsies!
Whoopsies! Actually, I don't think Dervil feels all that bad about it in the end at what happens,
I don't
because so no, remember Dervil saved a young girl because he's awesome. He like had her hide, but Tristan, who was in the book, so it was another cool character introduction. Prince of Kurnow, he's the one who is like in charge of those tin mines. And he comes with that girl that Dervil saved and accuses Owain of killing his people because Owain had come back, or I think they blamed it on the Irish.
Yeah, they blamed it on the Black Shield Irish. And I don't know if we knew the girl's name in the books, but the girl's name is Sarlina. So I don't know if she comes into a bigger role throughout the show. And also, I think this Prince Tristan, I think he's supposed to be like the Tristan and Isodel from like the Arthur legend stuff. Which is pretty cool. Like you see
it's cool. I like that. Yeah.
The knights of the round table are just kind of like other lords and royalty people that just like kind of become bonded with Arthur through this like team up against the Saxons. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is pretty cool to see. Like it just feels more natural, like historically.
Yeah.
You know?
I totally. That's what Bernard Cornwell was so good at doing. And so anyway, he comes in throwing accusations around, and Owain denies. And so Tristan does the noble thing and is like, all right, I'll fight you for it, dude. Challenges him to a duel.
One thing too that was like cool too, like I love the Dane culture stuff in Last Kingdom, like dying with weapon in hand, making the square. One thing in this books, the like sort of culture of the people is when you challenge someone, you put your sword down in the earth, and then if the person accepts, they knock it out. And that doesn't happen. There's a couple times it happens, and it didn't happen either time. I was kind of like, I wish you would have done that.
Yeah, it's just a little thing they could have done.
Yeah,
just a little thing they could have done. But anyway, Arthur still feels like something fishy's going on, and so he starts to press. He starts to investigate a little bit more, and he's also worried about like how is he going to be perceived now too, and like he's got to act here. He's got to find justice. And don't forget, Owain and Arthur used to be like that. Like they're tight. They were especially tight in the beginning. Owain is who like defended Arthur in the beginning and wanted Arthur to come and take over basically. And then he starts like getting jealous when Arthur does start to take over, it seems.
And even before that, when Uther was beating the shit out of Arthur in the first episode, Owain was kind of trying to stand up for him, and I think helped convince him not to kill him. And like they point out, they grew up together and everything. So, it seems like they're even tighter than they were in the books. And then also King Gorfefid points out the Irish attacking makes no sense. And to like, if Arthur is going to be thinking about the kingdom, he needs to be thinking about who his friends are. Another thing too, Arthur picks up on is, and I like too that Arthur, like in the books too, why I liked Arthur is he's not just a good warrior and like this good guy who's also just a good warrior. He's also like pretty smart, and he goes to the money handler, Loyhilt, who was, if you remember from like when they first did the tax collecting thing, he was with them. So he's got to know, where all this money came from. And Arthur's, picking at him, and you can tell like he definitely doubts him.
Mhm.
And then eventually,
Oh yeah,
he'll
he's like,
just
yeah, okay, because Lohit's lying. Yeah,
like the whole
Arthur's
time
just like,
he's
oh, okay, yeah, right.
obviously doubting him, and he's just like, well, it's because there must have been an error, and he's like, oh, that makes sense, and just
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, an error. All right, all right, cool.
and it's just
Yeah,
like, oh man, does no one notice that Arthur's catching on?
I know. And anyway, the time goes on. Remember, we have this duel impending between Owain and Tristan and Bishop. I guess they tried to negotiate with Tristan and he refused.
Yeah.
And it's like obvious that Owain is going to win the duel because Owain is like one of the best warriors in the land.
Mm-hmm.
And, we don't know what Tristan's got, but Owain's at least a lot bigger than him and we know what he can do. And Arthur goes to Derval because Arthur's always had the certain trust in Derval, even when Derval tried to poison him.
It was just a
Earlier.
sleepy poison. Like
But I think that's when Arthur really learned that like who Derval is on the inside. Like he is honest. Like he didn't want to do it.
yeah.
He was it was torn in two different directions at that time. So he goes to Derval for the truth. And Derval tells him without telling him.
This is one of my favorite scenes from the book. So I'm glad that they did it at all.
Yeah.
Because I think for some people they might not even picked up on that this was like a cool scene. But in the books, I love this scene so much.
And I thought they did it well in the show. I was liking this in the show too.
I like the books a little better. I feel like Arthur almost felt like a little more like aggressive during the conversation. And in the books, how I interpret it, like Arthur was kind of being like pretty nice with Derval. He was just like, and I think the phrasing, they kind of get the phrasing, but the phrasing in the book I thought was better too. Arthur was like I just essentially want to do just things to have a just kingdom. Do you think that if I were to challenge Owain, do you think that would be just? And I don't want you to break your oath to Owain, but do you think my cause would be just? So it's kind of a loophole,
Well, that's basically how they did it in the show too, though.
I think they worded it like a little differently.
A little bit, but that's basically what they said.
It was like, still basic. It was still basic, but I wish they would have just copied it word for word. Kind of like how The Last of Us. There was that one scene between Joel and the girl. They just pretty much just copied that right from the game. I kind of wish they would have just done that here. But again,
but it is that essence. Like he asks that question, like I can't remember how they phrase it in the show, but like if I fight Owain, will it be just or will I be, and
it's still a great bro moment.
Gives him like Derval gives him like a very like emotional yes, which is basically admitting to Arthur like it was Owain. The accusations are true. So so Arthur decides what he's going to do at that point. We don't exactly know yet what he's going to do, but he knows what he's going to do. And they're drinking, the night before, and Arthur's actually nice to him at the party thing that they're at.
Yeah, they have a scene where Owain brings up when they were kids and like the stuff they've been through together, and you can tell like Arthur's already like kind of like
the look in his eye.
He's already like you turned into this person that's murdering people and not helping the people, and like you can tell he's already got that, but he like wants Owain to have this night, like you can just tell,
right? Because they do have history.
Yeah.
And like it's not that Arthur wants to kill Owain.
No.
But he also knows he has to for justice.
And he's worried too about the rivalry. If Tristan is at rival if Turnhout is in rivalry with Dumnonia, then they aren't going to be united against the Saxons, which is the real threat. And
Yeah.
that's Arthur's
and that's
main
like
focus.
Arthur's number one goal is
Yes.
to, just like Abraham Lincoln, preserve the Union.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about get rid of the vampires. And I was like,
oh, get rid of the vampire. Yeah.
You ever see that movie? Abraham Lincoln.
I've never watched it. No.
It's okay. It's like,
yeah,
it's obviously just so dumb, but it's fun to think about,
Okay. All right. I'll add it to the list. But then we get the showdown at the end of this episode. In this corner, standing 6'3", weighing 275 pounds, Owain. And in this corner, standing 5'6.5", weighing
170,
140. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, so pretty awesome scene to end this episode where Arthur steps up to fight Owain.
It's funny because he challenges Owain, and Owain's just even like, he can't even believe it. He's like, oh, whatever, fuck you, and starts to walk off. And Arthur's just like, I'm going. He just commits to it. He's like, you're a coward. And it's just like,
chicken.
And everyone's there. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's there because they were all showing up for the duel between Tristan and Owain. And he calls him a coward, and that just sets it off. And it's a pretty good fight. You see bits of it in the trailer. It's raining, so it's dramatic. Yeah. I think it was raining in the books too, because they were like fighting on slick mud or ground or something like that. It eventually turns into like more of like a brawl, like fisticuff brawl, which, like, again, is cool. But the book, like, there's this whole thing, and the thing is too, in the book, we haven't really seen Arthur fight yet. We hear he has these horses, and everyone says he's a good warlord, but we haven't seen him fight. We have already in the show seen him fight against Gunglaeus that one time, briefly, broke his sword. And Owain's always kind of trying to make Arthur out as like just this guy who rides horses around, doesn't know how to do a shield wall, and Owain is superior to Arthur because he can stab and thrust and stuff like that. And Arthur's just a hacker and all this stuff. And the fight goes on pretty evenly for a while. And then eventually, Arthur, and they're slipping in the water and stuff. Arthur pretends to slip this one time, which leads Owain to come and charge him. And then Arthur does the thrust. So it's like showing that he knows what Owain thought of him the whole time. And it shows he is a badass warrior. So in this, we see he's a badass warrior.
I wonder how they could have done that, though. I feel that's a hard thing to pull off. I almost wonder if that's the kind of thing that's easier to describe in a book.
Maybe.
Because, like, how could we actually tell if he fake slipped or really slipped? You know what I mean?
Well,
I don't know.
He's
I'm not
an
sure
actor.
how they would have done that.
He's an actor. I think he could. I
know. I'm just thinking about this. Like, that might have been hard to pull off, actually. Something small like that.
I wish they would have, though.
It is
because
really
it shows
cool
more
from the book.
The fight is still cool in this. It's still a cool fight. But I think the book gives it a unique thing that if they would have done it that way, it would have stood out from other TV fights, sword fights. If that would have been the unique factor. I wouldn't say there was any unique factor in this other than the setting. Like, we've seen people fight with swords in the rain and fisticuff each other before. The only thing that sort of, and again, I enjoyed the fight, and it was heartbreaking because you knew they both liked each other, but Owain isn't going to take this insult, and he doesn't want to admit he committed this crime, and Arthur wants to unite people so bad and he doesn't want Tristan, the king of Kurnow, to die, and lead to war and all this stuff. So he's got to,
he's got to do it.
There's still tension.
I mean,
it's
a little bit of that flavor of Eric and Siegfried, a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Little bit, not as much because I think we got to see their relationship a little bit more in Last Kingdom, but a little bit of that feeling though when he kills him and he feels bad about doing it.
They still set it up pretty good this
like
episode.
Brothers.
Yeah,
totally. So that's the episode. Basically, it ends on Arthur killing him.
Yeah, he kills Owain in this, and it just kind of zooms out into the rain.
But yeah, I thought, to me, the duel was probably the best moment of the episode. What did you think?
I'd say that too. Again, I'm saying how much better the book was. It just shows more of Arthur's character, and again, it's kind of cool too to see him fight for the first time, because we are hearing from someone else who supposedly knows him that he isn't a good fighter. He's just good at wearing strange armor and riding on horses. And here we get to see Arthur is someone who can fight this renowned warrior, this grunt, too. And he can kick his ass just as well in the mud as he can ride a horse and look pretty in the sun.
Look pretty in fish scale armor.
Exactly. Which I wish we still would have get that fish scale armor.
I know.
Maybe next season.
The poofy hat, or the helmet with the feathers and
nice feather helmets. But anyway. I still like the fight. I still like the tension.
Well, what about your bro moment?
Bro moment, I'm gonna say Arthur and Durfel. Even though I like the book version more, I still liked it. And I just appreciated they did that, because I can see just the show, like, writers sort of overlooking that part. You know what I mean? I don't, people who don't know it as well, and
I think I was gonna pick that one. But I'll pick Arthur allowing Owain to enjoy his final night.
That's a good one.
Instead of like making drama and saying I'm gonna challenge you tomorrow, he could have even just not talked to him at all, but he decided to let him enjoy his final night. So that's pretty cool, knowing what he's gonna do to him tomorrow.
Which is also,
it wasn't a guarantee that Arthur was gonna win.
No,
I think Arthur thought he was gonna win, but like, it's not like Arthur dominated him.
No,
definitely it was a good fight. So anyway, that's the episode. Let's move on to episode 6, where we get to meet one of the most important characters in this whole book series, the monkey wrench.
Yeah.
What?
I thought you were literally talking about like a wrench, and I'm just like, yeah,
no, well,
a wrench.
It is a metaphorical wrench thrown into the cogs of Arthur's life. As this person is in, I think, almost every King Arthur lore.
Oh yeah,
I think this person. So anyway, we get to meet Guinevere in this episode. Oh wait, they don't say she's Guinevere in this episode, do they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So anyway, cut that out. We get to meet Guinevere in this episode.
Yes,
and we'll get to that, but that's sort of the big thing from this episode. But I guess we'll start from the beginning. So.
Okay. And this one picks up right where the last one left off, and it's Arthur's feeling bad. He just killed Owain. Rain's
and Merlin's like, well, I guess now you're like the ruler officially. Like, I guess this makes you
politics, Yeah. Wouldn't that be
anoints...
cool, man? If that's how politics work for us now, it's like you still should be like an educated politician, but like to fight, and that's who becomes.
You want two 77 to 80-year-old men to fight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh right. Yes. Arthur is now supreme leader
of Dumnonia.
Of Dumnonia, bro. It's so gnarly. But Merlin's just like, the leader of everyone.
Hmm.
But I think too why it is too is because like one, he wants Arthur to be in lead, but also too, Arthur is like one of like the original sworn protectors, or
Hmm.
at least, yeah, I think he was. And because Bishop Bedwin obviously isn't gonna be leading people, and now Owain is dead, so I think Arthur's like the only one of those people, and Merlin doesn't want to lead, so he's the only one left. And in the books, it's not just that; it's because he also has a big ass army, um,
Yeah.
and he's already sort of like controlling the area, which they haven't really like led to
They
that.
haven't shown us his army. They've only shown us his like sort of band of brothers.
Yeah.
We haven't seen like an army, but
Hmm.
I pretend it's there. I pretend
So
it's like
that's what I'm
camping out.
doing too.
And it's like, um,
And then we
anyway,
get
this
into
is
some stuff
yes, yes, yes,
that I
yes.
was complaining about, um and one of the things I was complaining about was like it wasn't Arthur didn't get the sword from his mother in the books. Merlin gave Arthur the sword. But
Right.
I do like how the show did it here. I like that it's
Hmm.
I'm not saying I like it more, but I like it in a different way. Because there's still that then Arthur gets this connection to his mother, but it turns out Merlin gave the sword to Arthur's mother,
Hmm.
and it's actually one of the treasures of Britain. And so we get to hear about the treasures of Britain, which I was like, when are we going to
Yes.
talk about the treasures of
Well,
Britain?
we have to, I think, for the next seasons, right? For the
Yes,
next,
but we
we have
have
to
to.
introduce the treasures of Britain because it's such a main part of the plot.
Yes. And uh so that was cool. And he mentions the names from the books too. And that's what I was worried too. Like
This is cool.
I was like, they're just gonna say Excalibur for the sword or whatever. And he says, shit,
Go
I
ahead.
can't
Go ahead and
say.
pronounce it. Go ahead.
I even wrote it down. Cald Caldbook? Calade.
Which
Someone
Calade which something
someone
like that.
wrote it in one of our comments too, and they pronounce, I think they even wrote how to phonetically pronounce it. I'm sorry, guy. Please comment again in this one. But Kaladafook.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
giving us
you.
that.
The sword
Um,
called Fook. But I love it. I love that because but it's just like because they had a different word. And it just
yeah,
makes it feel more historically real. You know what I mean? That it's this weird old British like Briton sounding word.
yeah.
Um and it turns out Merlin was the one who did it, and so it's still pretty cool. And so I'm just like, whoa, there goes the strike, and it's got a different flavor to it. So
Yeah.
I really I like that going
And
on.
it's cool. It's a very cool moment. I was really happy about this. And in this same moment, Merlin is trying to convince Arthur, sell him on like you should just be king. Just forget
Yep.
about that goddamn baby. Like
Don't you hate
you
that
know,
baby too? I
don't
hate
you
that.
hate that baby? Like don't. But Merlin's got good reason, obviously, because he's had the visions.
Mm.
Um, but Arthur is again his noble self. He's just like, no, 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 no. I made a promise to protect him until he's old enough to take the throne. That's what I'm going to
I
do.
I uh I I respect it so much because I don't think I could I if I was in the same position, I definitely would have just took being the king. I would have been like, I think I would if I was Arthur, if I was like
You would have killed a baby,
seeing
Steve.
no, I wouldn't have I wouldn't have killed the baby. I'm saying I would have like if I was I think I'm a good guy. And especially if I was like even like as good as Arthur. And I'm just like I'm in power now. I'm basically gonna be running this country. Like I should just be the king. And then we don't have to worry about like some kid who doesn't know anything what's going on coming in
Right.
and messing this up. Like I'll just take it. I think I would, to be honest. I don't know. I think I just would. Like when I was reading the book or watching the show here, like I respect Arthur so much, but I think I
Right.
just would have I think Steve would have taken it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Would you? Do you know?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, does Arthur even want to be king? You know,
Hmm.
would I even want to be king? It would be hard to turn down. Hard to turn down that kind of power, I guess. But I'm like way better of a person than you, so I think I would totally give it up.
Oh man,
No,
I would love to
just
wish I would do that, but I don't
right. No,
think
I don't
would.
know what I do, honestly. It's hard to imagine.
I think I'd
Hard to
honestly be
imagine.
like, I could do this better. Even if I couldn't, I think that's how I would think.
And I
Um,
think Arthur knows he can. I mean, Arthur
I
just like
know, and the
he
thing is,
has
he
this air
also
about him.
knows it.
He just like knows like, yeah, I would be the better choice than this kid. But he's so noble. He is so noble. So anyway, later on, Nimue, I think, hears about Owain's men suspecting Derval of telling Arthur.
Yeah. So, and
Um,
Owain even accused Durfel at the
oh, you're right.
duel,
That's right. That's right.
of being an oath breaker, and Arthur even then was like, he is not an oath breaker, and I'm just like, this
Yeah.
seems like really suspicious with you when you say that.
You've just confirmed
He's
that he
totally
is an oath
not an oath
breaker.
breaker. I just talked with him about other stuff, and then wanted to duel you afterwards, like unrelated.
Unrelated.
But Durthel's
And
men
Nimue's
also
like,
well, of course, Durthel's the one who ratted us out that he did do that
yeah.
shit.
And so Nimue warns Derval, is like, I'll protect you with my magic. And Lynette's like, not me though. You're not going to protect me, which is interesting because we know like Lunette or not. Lunette is awesome. Lunette loves Derval. She's been a really nice character the whole time, and Derval sort of loves her. Like he likes her a lot. They grew up together in the show, and but he loves Nimue. Like he's in love with Nimue, right?
Also too, in the show, she was like, she is nice in the show, but she was also here in the show. She was like, hey, don't rat out your boss, because
right,
like then we won't have cash coming in. Like he's your lord, when you go into battles, he's the guy who gives you gold. So like, don't rat him out, because then we won't have gold. And because she wants to get married, have kids, live the life.
Maybe that's what put a wedge between. Yeah, Derful's not ready for that. He wants to be a warrior. That's right. And maybe that's something that just starts to separate them a little bit here. Maybe it starts to drive a wedge between them. Is that
because the men do try and attack Durfel and call him an oathbreaker, but Nimue like throws, what does she throw down on the ground? But she like basically she's cursing
these
them.
Like tablets, right? It's like druid tablets or something.
Yeah. Which I like this form of the magic where we don't see anything magic.
Where everyone in the world believes that shit is powerful.
Yeah.
That curse is like going to do some damage, but like on the outside, like we don't see like mystical arms come out of the tablets and strangle everyone. It's like it's just their beliefs. And so it gives you the vibe that these tablets are very powerful in that time period, and that like this is something people feared. And so they did do that well. But
the thing is, like, even if you back then, even if someone curses you and doesn't do anything to you right then, and because your belief in it, if something bad happens to you later, you're gonna attribute it to the curse that happened to you, and you're gonna start connecting all those dots, just like Utra's men did back in season 3 of The Last Kingdom. So, and that's the kind of like magic that I like. Like I mean, like I like magic in the fantasy stuff, but like in this series, I like that. That's not how the magic works. You're always wondering though, like, did that curse happen? They did say
a real curse, right?
There's a bond in this curse that would happen if this thing didn't happen, So, it's I like this.
I do like that too. So that was good. And anyway, Lunette does actually leave Derval in this episode, because they just wanted different things out of life ultimately.
One thing that happens though with them, and I can't remember where in the episode it happens, maybe near the end.
Oh yes,
but
this is one of the things this was the first thing I thought of when I said that at the beginning of the episode here.
This
of
is one
what
of the
we
things
got that we wanted. Yeah.
we've both been talking about this. In the books, Durfel was trained by Hal
Yep. Which we
in
see
the way of the
none of
sword.
that.
We didn't see any
Yeah,
of
we
it.
see none of that in the show.
And then when Gungleus invades, Hal dies, and uh, Durfel takes the sword of
Mhm.
Hal, and he calls it Hal's Bane.
Right.
Um, and then she gives him the sword here, and she's like,
Yeah.
"This was my father's," and gives it to him from her Hal, and it's just like, yes,
And he says, I think
yes.
it's, and he says, I will call it Howl's Bane.
I missed that when it happened. I must have been
Oh,
like putting dishes away or something. My TV's right next to my kitchen though, so it's like I'm like ignore. But I'm
right.
just like, how did I miss that? Because like I was when I
It
saw
was,
that, I was like, oh yes. Maybe I was just so roused that I just like my sensory input wasn't there anymore.
yeah.
Like I just couldn't take anything else in because I was so pumped when
Cool
I
moment.
saw that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the thing is too, I don't even
So
think in
awesome.
Last Kingdom they ever. I think in the movie they mention Serpent Breath. Maybe I don't know if they even call it by
Right.
name.
I don't know if they ever
Um,
actually caught.
I don't know if they ever say the name of it though throughout the show. They definitely don't ever say Wasp's Sting, which is his short
Yeah.
little knife sword thing. But so I like in this show, here we are. We're calling it Hal's Bane. Um, we're showing the connection here.
Right.
That's yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Finally, like at first it was the scar on the hand we didn't have, and then it was like, well, not the sword is. Yeah, so it's like okay, slowly but surely, all these things that we've been wanting are coming. So it's awesome.
Yeah, and so
It's
was I.
awesome.
Yeah.
I cannot wait for Merlin to turn into an old man and be super mean to everyone.
I
Um,
can't wait either.
I think that's just the last thing. Like, and the what do we need?
Arthur's wardrobe, I
The
really like.
three of the wardrobe and the three
Wounds of Wisdom.
wounds of wisdom. Yep. So anyway, um, back to Gorfethid and Arthur. This is, I think, where they start to come up with the idea of the alliance between with the marriage, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because this is where they're meeting, and Arthur's kind of running shit here, and
Yeah.
Gorfethid really isn't happy that he's like, why is Arthur the one running this? And Merlin's like, well, the gods declared it, so shut up. And
Yeah.
and Arthur's like, hey, like I am not going to be a king, you know. Maybe like everyone's thinking like Arthur's kind of looking like Julius Caesar right now. Like he said he would, like the people love him. He's getting all his power. Is he not going to give it up? And he says them like, hey, like I'm going to give this up when Morge is of age. I just want a strong kingdom for when he gets there. We need to get together as an alliance, fight the Saxons, and I should lead that because I'm badass. And everyone else is in agreement. Gorfethid, though, of Powys, he's pretty hesitant. And he says he's not going to submit to Dumnonia. And so Arthur's workaround that is, why don't we become allies through marriage? Because I'm not letting Gungleus free, because that's what Gorfethid keeps asking for. He's like, why don't I marry your daughter, Princess Kindwin, and then we can have that alliance. And it's like, all right, sounds good. And that's the purpose of marriages back then, you know.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
cool.
So yeah, and so then we get to meet Kindwin and her what would you call Guinevere's to her?
She's kind of like an adopted sister of sorts. We
Right, but
find
she's also
out,
sort of like her lady in waiting or something. Like she's like
yeah,
always there for her. Yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, we know that she is a little bit older than her and that she's kind of helped raise her because Kindwin's mother hasn't been around.
mm-hmm.
So she's sort of like an older sister, I think, to her.
Yeah,
Guinevere is to Kindwin. Um, and they have a really good relationship, the two of them.
mm-hmm.
They're very, very close. And they talk about Arthur because, this is being arranged. So they're wondering what he's going to look like and what he's going to be like. And so this scene, I think, was to show us Guinevere.
Yeah.
It was really important to show us who Guinevere is, what she looks like, because later on we get a bit important scene with Guinevere and Arthur.
She almost looks like she could be a Viking. She's not how I pictured.
But they don't even say in the episode that it's Guinevere yet.
Yeah.
But you just know. You just know it's her.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you see her, you just know. Because I think she's like the most unique looking, like with the way they do her hair, and it's like blonde but shaved on the side. It's like she stands out.
Mm-hmm.
And but yeah, so
she's a little tougher in the show than she was, at least how I thought of her in the first book. I think eventually she becomes tougher. But like the first book, she's all about her memory. I don't know. Actually, she's not all about that one part, but she's all about like pretty people and like good looks and that kind of stuff. But
well, it's interesting though. One little, I don't know if they did this intentionally, but in the scene later on when she meets with Arthur, there's like a moon. She's like looking at the moon on the lake, which is the symbol of Isis. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's a
point. But if you know the books, you can.
If you know the books, you know that Isis is an important god to Guinevere. So that's all I'm going to say.
It's like the moon god.
The moon god. Yep. So.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. Yeah.
But I don't know if they did that on purpose or not. I don't know.
And then here too, we get some more cool stuff that I've been wanting. Treasures of Britain, and Merlin. He says he has a premonition, and he's got to find the Horn of Bran, which is one of the treasures of Britain that he thinks will help. If he gets all of them together, will bring back the old gods of Britain, and we'll get rid of the Christianity that's coming, get rid of the Saxons. It'll bring it back to the way it was, the good old days. Make Britain great again is what.
Make Britain great again
is what he's all
Merlin's
about.
Whole thing. It really is.
It's honestly it.
That's funny. Yeah.
And he sets off to find the treasure because he wants to appease the gods. Yeah. So again, we've talked about Merlin in the first book was pretty much absent until about halfway through. And so far, the whole
I think more than that too.
Yeah. The first season here, he's been pretty much present. So I'm kind of wondering
right from the get-go,
yeah. I'm kind of wondering if this will help sort of get him out of the picture, and we can maybe see a different side of Merlin. I feel like they're not going to switch his character up that much, but his reveal was so cool, and just the way he is.
One of my favorite parts of the first book. It's one of my favorite parts of the first book.
I hope something.
I hope they can do it somehow. I hope they can do it somehow.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But anyway, comes back with at least a huge beard too.
Yeah.
Can we get like a big beard on this guy? Come on.
I know. Before he left though, he told Nimue to forgive Arthur because he said the gods are with Arthur, and that's hard for Nimue to do because of what Nimue did, or what Arthur did with Gunlaeus by letting him go, even though
not killing him,
and not killing him, just not killing him, or not letting her kill him.
Yeah.
It's hard for her to forgive him for that. Anyway, they get ready to go to Powys to go meet this new bride of Arthur's. And Derval gets to go. Derval is, kind of welcomed now into Arthur's crew. That's what he always wanted. Is this the episode he gets the new haircut?
Yep.
I think it is. I think he gets the new mullet haircut.
Gets a nice.
And I don't know. My first impression of what Derval looked like is like, oh, he looks like he could have been an elf in Lord of the Rings. That was like my first impression. And I like that for him early on because he is sort of just living at the Shire like place in Avalon.
Yep.
Everything's nice, and he's had sort of a sheltered. Besides, again, we say this all the time. Besides having his mom get turned into a slave in front of him and thrown onto a spike,
besides
very close
his life
to his heart.
Was pretty
Besides
easy.
that, his life was great.
Pretty privileged life he's had.
No, but it's true. After that, after he gets saved, he is like he's brought up not as a warrior, right?
Yeah.
So his warrior progression is happening before our eyes, and this is like, I think the look now, he looks way tougher. He looks way tougher now.
I my like internet app thing that I sometimes accidentally swipe to, it just knows what I'm interested in, and it was like to get me to try and click on articles, you know what I mean? And I guess there was some sort of negative reaction from some
Oh, with the hair?
site about his hair. Yeah.
Oh, come
Um,
on. I
yeah,
like it because like
I'm not
I could
against
believe
it.
that could have been a real hairstyle back
Oh yeah,
then.
I wouldn't do it, but
I almost feel Guinevere's hair is a little bit like Viking-y, like
yeah.
how we complain about the Vikings, how like when the hell did they have time to do their hair up that nice in the Viking
Yep.
show?
Mm,
Like, there's no way that
mm-hmm.
Lagatha's hair is that perfect all the time with like all the decadence. Maybe a little bit of that with Guinevere's hair, but it doesn't really change that much. Like maybe she just did it once like that and just keeps it like, I don't know.
That'd be tough to
But
maintain.
Derville's hair is cool. I like it, and I think this is a nice step forward for him in his growth.
It
And
looks rugged
I
too.
have to
Like
give
it.
Stuart Campbell a lot of props. The guy who plays Derville.
Oh yeah.
I think he's doing a great job. I think he's doing a great job with character growth.
Yeah.
Um,
It's cool how they're doing him
he's
in this show.
yeah. I think the casting, from what I've seen so far, has been pretty spot on for that. Because I don't really know what I pictured Derville looking like. I don't think it was Stuart Campbell when I read it, but I can now if I go back and read it, I think I'll picture him because I think it fits.
I
I
honestly, I
think
always
if
pictured myself as Durfel. I don't know why. I never do that with like other first
mm,
person. Like I never did that with. I mean, I saw the show first. Maybe that's why I didn't do it with the
The
Uhtred
Last Kingdom,
books.
yeah.
But I like for whatever reason, I always pictured Durfel looking like me. Is what I as I was reading it.
Oh, I know. Thank
Um,
God they cast Stuart Campbell. Um, the,
I couldn't pull off a mullet, that's for sure. Um, but I
but yeah,
hope
but now
he
I think this is
gets a
how I'll
little
picture him now.
bulkier too later, because eventually
He's
he's
pretty
called
tall though. He's
Durfel
pretty
Cadern.
tall.
I know he is a tall guy. So if he just gets some
Yeah,
sandwiches in him, you know, he starts eating some chicken
yeah.
legs, you
Well,
know,
that's what like the Last Kingdom actors did is they all got buff
that's
and
they
like
got
and before the season
fucking.
they actually work out and get ripped because Arthur he's not ripped. Um,
I want him to
you
be a
know
little bigger
he
too, a little bit, just a little bit.
but but again, if you go back to that time period, I don't think you're going to see chiseled guys. You're going to probably see some bigger, like strong people in some ways because of like the hard nature of like labor back then, or
Oh, you're definitely
you
not
might
going to
see that, but you're
see.
not going to see like guys that are like ripped from going to the gym.
No,
I
you're
don't
definitely
think.
not going to see like bodybuilder levels of like proportions. You would see, I think, you would see more people look almost like some fighters do, like a UFC boxer kind, because they'd be swinging a sword. You know, they still might be doing push-ups, body weight stuff,
Hmm.
squats. And I think that they wouldn't have like big shoulders and traps and stuff like that. It would just be kind of, I think if anything, they might be more lean. They just might not be
They
as like
might be more lean. I think
muscular
they might
big,
be more lean.
because then they also just don't have as much
Unless
food.
you're rich. They're probably going to say unless you're rich and can eat all the time, they're
Yeah.
probably going to be lean. Um, so it might fit like the way they look, you know. Anyway,
Yeah.
plus Last Kingdom's 400 years after the events of this, so I mean the technology
Yeah.
and exercise science
Nautilus
is,
machines
I
and
mean,
Bowflex
400
and
years. Yeah, they got the Bowflex and
they got the Bowflex
um,
in 800s, man.
in the
Bowflex came out
800s. Bowflex came out, so like Uhtred was
since
ripped.
800 AD. You know what I
I
mean?
don't know when the
That's
shake weight came out. That was more
I think that was
1100s. That was 11.
1000, 1100. Yeah,
Yeah,
1100. You're right. You're right. You're right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I've seen those old drawings of the
Ye old shake weight.
of the ye old shake weight. Anyway, um, so anyway, they're on their way. They camp out on their way to Powys, and Arthur goes for a little walk. And I was like, "What the hell is Guinevere doing?" Like here, she's with her horse, and she just happens to be by this lake with the moon. But this is a really important scene. because Arthur is like swept off his feet. I mean, instantly sees Guinevere, and like it seems like the whole world fell away. Like he's like in love with her immediately.
Yeah. And so
And
far in the show
I think
too,
like,
we haven't
yeah,
seen him
go
like
ahead.
interested in anyone. You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't sound like, it sounds like he's always very focused on the goal. The goal is
The goal. Yeah.
unite the kingdoms of Britain against the Saxons.
Right.
And it's funny too, because like right before this, he was talking with Bishop Edwin, who admitted he's in love with his sister Morgan. And Arthur's like,
Right.
I've never been in love, and like for me, like, so marriage to me makes sense. Like, I have no problem marrying
Right.
someone I don't know to
It's
get the
political
kingdom.
gain.
It's like, I'm all about this.
Political
And
gain.
like
So
immediately,
really bad timing. Really bad timing. Um, and it's not Arthur's fault that he falls in love. Like he and you can tell equally Guinevere is interested in him when in his knowledge, but Guinevere quickly picks up on who he is.
Yeah, it's funny because at
Um,
first she just thinks he's a man of Arthur,
right,
just thinks he's one of his soldiers, and she's talking about him and the things
right,
she's heard, and he's like, okay, interesting perspective. And
yeah,
then she eventually catches on. She's like, the way he's talking, like, you are Arthur, aren't you? And she's like so offended. She's like, you made a fool of me. And just
yeah, yeah.
um
But Arthur is like just
infatuated.
smitten, just infatuated, and like every time from here that he sees Guinevere, he's in a trance.
Mm,
He is not the same. And I like that they mention that he has never been in love before, because like, I think most people when they're in their first relationship, whether how old they are when they're young, we're
that's my
probably
that's my
whipped.
brother right
Like,
now.
oh
Never
no.
never like seriously dated anyone in high school, and now his girlfriend is just, I mean, she's really nice, but just, I mean, he's all about her right now.
You're
You know what I mean?
gonna put this on the podcast or what?
I'm fine with this, I haven't said who.
I don't know. Is your brother?
No one knows. He's not gonna listen to this one.
Anyway. But
One
yeah,
of the
so like
things.
I think you can actually understand that though if you've ever been through something like that.
Oh yeah.
Like your rationale, it goes out the window.
Yeah.
You know, like the feelings, the heart overcomes the brain, and it certainly does for Arthur, because um
I think he really liked the sort of conversation
yes,
they had too.
yeah,
Besides her just looking pretty. Like she mentions how she lives with Gorfefid because her homeland was taken by the
hmm
Saxons. So she was supposed to
she's
be
a
like a lady,
she's a princess.
a
Yeah,
princess, but she doesn't have any land or anything. So she's not
right.
really of anything. Um, and then also too, Arthur asks her, he's like, hey, I had to kill one of my friends because he was lying about this thing. And
Oh yeah,
she basically reassures him that like he really wasn't your friend if he lied to you and was going to put your kingdom in jeopardy. And he really liked having that sort of reassurance, because he's been kind of
yeah.
upset about that too.
And I
Um,
think it shows he's not just attracted to her looks. He's also attracted to her brain, and
mhm,
what the things that she said. It just even more enforced, like, wow, I really like her.
mhm,
And
mhm.
and so she leaves, and I think he's just kind of like, oh well, I'll never see her again probably, and I'll just marry Kynwyn. And this was just like
It's a
I'll
thing I'll
never see
think
her again.
about.
It was, I'll think
After.
about her, like the woman that I met in the woods, but this was, I'm gonna marry Kynwyn, so it's all good.
Mhm.
They get to Powys. They're warmly welcome. Actually, I like the actor who plays Gorfethid. He can be very stern and like intimidating, and then he can quickly switch and be like, "Ah, welcome to the party."
Yeah.
And he can also kind of sarcastically be like that too. Like he can like act like he's happy with you, but he's not. So the guy does a really good job.
He's really good. Because
Yeah.
like the first time we see him, he just seems like such a threat. He just seems like he's not fazed by anyone. He's just gonna kill that baby. He's like, bring me the baby. And then you see he's also kind of wise and in some ways kind of nurturing with Arthur when they're talking.
Mhm.
And but he's also like, you can still tell he's kind of volatile. He's talking with Guinevere in this episode too,
Yeah.
like I've never taken you against your will, so you kind of owe me, you know.
Yeah.
And
But he's not Guinevere's type.
no, no,
No.
um,
And here's the thing, and this is how Kynwyn is in the books. She's very, very pretty. Um, she's very nice. There's no reason why, like, if Guinevere never happened, I feel like she would marry Arthur, and they would like each other a lot, and maybe grow to love each other because, like, Kynwyn's really cool, Arthur's really cool. It might not be love at first sight, but like, I think they would have been fine. You know.
Yeah.
And obviously Guinevere's who got in the way. So they introduced Kynwyn and Arthur, and Arthur's just cordial. He's clearly not struck by her, by her looks or anything. He's not like where she like I think thinks, oh, he's very handsome. Like she's excited now.
She's excited because she's been, I think, set up to be married already.
Yeah,
a couple times, at least once. She was supposed to marry Gunglius, so she lucked out because she didn't like him. He's a terrible guy, so she's glad she didn't have to do that. And it's also like her cousin, I think. So that would have been.
So she's like, good looking guy, not my cousin. Ruler of Dunnomnia. This nice is checking all the boxes. Yeah. But
so they're at a party. They're getting blessed, and you can tell Arthur's like, all right, this is all gonna work out, no hiccups. And in walks Lady Guinevere, the woman he met at the lake. We don't know her name yet. She just walks in smoking in this dress. Clearly like the hottest person in Britain right now.
Britain at the time. Which I think she's supposed to be. Like she's supposed to be clearly like the one all the men gawk at, But
and Arthur's
so
just
she comes in, and again, Arthur is just helpless. He cannot stop staring at her. And like while I was watching it, I was like, dude, stop being so obvious. Like, what are you doing?
That's what I was thinking too.
He's just staring.
And it's just so unlike Arthur.
And they introduce, and it's so unlike Arthur.
It makes it so much more believable that
I think so.
This could happen to him because like he's never had to deal with something that distracted him.
That's where I think that conversation with Bedwin is so important earlier. Like, so we know, he hasn't been like hooking up girls like along the way. Like, no, he's been focused on the mission. There's been no love. Like, he hasn't had a previous relationship like this. So it makes all the more sense that all the rationality would go out the window. I was going to say something like at first I was like, oh, he's being too obvious. Like Arthur's being too obvious. I don't think it's in this episode. Later on, like Gorfetha even picks up on it and is like, oh, you're struck by Guinevere, huh? Like, oh, so are we all.
Yep. And he's like, what?
I don't know if we should keep. I don't know if we should keep that in.
Yeah, I don't think it's
not a big deal.
It's very obvious. Like
it's obvious. So anyway, regardless, I was like, oh, okay. So like he is supposed to be obvious in the show.
I think even Kynwyn picks up on it here, and I don't think she thinks that he finds her attractive. I think she's just like, oh, you have you already met her or something? I think that's like what she's thinking.
Yeah, but I also think she's probably used to guys gawking at Guinevere.
Yeah,
I think she's probably used to like her getting that kind of attention too. So maybe she's just like, oh, well, she's not the princess, so he's mine. No, I mean she doesn't. She's not like that. But that's basically where the episode ends. And so I'm like, here we go. Here comes some of the good stuff.
Oh man, yeah.
The good but yet frustrating stuff, I will say.
Yeah.
Frustrating stuff as well, but it's important for the story. Um, yeah. What did you think? What was your bro moment from the episode?
A bro moment, I'm gonna have to say when Durfel becomes one of Arthur's men. Uh, he was just so happy, doing this. And when just the interaction between him and Arthur, and then he's meeting with the boys and everything. I'm hoping like the Last Kingdom, this
Hmm.
sort of builds into some more like cool bro moments, camaraderie, uh,
Yeah,
focus, because there's definitely that in these books too. Uh,
totally,
there's
totally.
there's another character we eventually meet that becomes like best friend. So I hope we get that. I hope it's just really something they point out to emphasize. And I'm
Mhm.
hopeful with the way they're so far. They're doing some of the bro stuff. It's definitely not.
Yeah,
They're doing a lot of plot focused stuff in the show, but they're still definitely
yeah.
highlighting this. So I like that one though. I liked it.
Okay.
You?
If you go with that one, I will go with Merlin, and the sword talk with Excalibur,
Yeah.
because I think Merlin also sort of gives Arthur his like the blessings,
Mm-hmm.
um, even though Arthur, still at the end of that interaction is like, I'm going to do my own thing,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm still not going to. But I like how Merlin comes in and is like, yeah, you should be king. Like, you're the best ruler here, and I'm going to make you anoint you now. And then I'm going to have this heart to heart about Excalibur, about how I gave it to your mother. I liked that. I like that.
What's your favorite moment from the episode? What's your favorite moment here?
The scene with Guinevere is a good when they meet in the woods. I like that scene, and I think I like it because I know what happens in the books, and I was excited for this interaction to happen. I'm going to go with that scene because I know it's the turning point in the book and in the show. It's like the beginning of the rest of what drives the plot
Mm,
forward. So, and I think it was a great interaction between the two actors. I think they did a really good job
yeah.
forming like there's some serious chemistry between us.
Mm-hmm.
Guinevere knows a little bit more than Arthur does in that moment, you know.
Yeah. And
So I
it's
think
interesting.
she tries to take herself out of the situation. Like she's certainly not trying to like fall in love with Arthur,
Mm-hmm.
especially when she learns that it's Arthur. I think she's like trying to like, oh, that's kindness. Like I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
thought that's my best moment scene.
That's good.
How about you?
Yeah. I'm gonna say Halbane
Cool.
coming up.
Oh
Even though
yes,
I
yeah. We have to have
apparently
that in there.
missed I don't know how I missed,
Yes.
because like I feel like, I mean, I definitely saw the scene when he gets it and I was just so pumped. Um I don't know how I missed him fucking saying it, but that was awesome. Getting a sword. And
Yeah.
um I I wish they would have shown him training with Hal before.
Yeah.
So it would be a little more
I never
significant,
got
but
the sense that he was a warrior in the show like they do the books.
yeah,
He's just like a farmer.
yeah. And I don't think he
Um,
was anything like serious before like Owain. I think
no, but
with
like
Owain
what
he was definitely more of a real warrior, but he at least was trained in the sword. We hear by Hal.
exactly? But like we didn't get any of that training. So
Now
um
I feel like his
later
training
on
is
when he
still,
says Hal will train me and Arthur's like, oh, Hal will also train me.
yeah.
So
It
it's
almost feels as though the show's kind of like showing you Durfel's training. As far as like the whole season so far. Like when he killed those guys in the woods, that was like his first time really using a sword. Period. And then,
yeah, maybe
uh,
it wouldn't have lent itself well for the show then if they had shown him training because then we would have like, oh, he's already becoming a warrior before we meet him,
yeah,
or before he goes on these quests.
yeah,
Where in the show it really feels like he's like a battle virgin. Like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
you got to wet his blade, like he's
Gotta wet your blade.
like Baby Monk did, like
Mm.
and I like that. I do like that.
And I kind of, it was, I don't know, it was maybe even more significant the way they did it in the show. So I was happy that I was wrong.
Yeah, though
I
with the
was kind of
reveal,
yeah, I was happy I was wrong with that complaint.
I'd have been disappointed if they never. Yeah, I would have been disappointed if they never touched on that.
Yeah. And the thing is too, that's
So,
now his sword. So that's like a nice
so
consistent
cool.
thing to have throughout the show now, you know.
It's cool when they have their own swords and like they're special.
Yeah, it's more
They don't
unique
just use
then.
any sword. It's
Mhm.
cool. I like it because it kind of felt like before Dervil was just using whatever sword.
Yeah.
Like he got that one sword from the guy he killed, I think, early on, and he
And
was
it was
using that
short
one
and
mostly.
small,
But
and I was like, please don't make that Halbane. That sucks.
yeah,
Um, so I'm glad. I'm glad.
yeah. So I think overall they're giving us more of what we want compared to what we thought in the beginning.
Yeah.
Very happy with that. I think the acting continues to be very strong,
Mm-hmm.
very good all the way around. Um, I'm into it, man. I am into the show. I am not, although there are things that, and we've mentioned and we won't go over again here, that we wish were from the books into it. I still really, really enjoy the show.
It
So
still feels, when I first saw the trailer, I was kind of worried they might kind of miss the mark entirely. And there's, like you said, there's still some things I wish that were
right,
different that we mentioned, but
because they didn't show Dervil in the trailer, right?
barely
Really,
showed
hardly at
Durfel.
all.
It was really
So it was
Arthur.
kind of like, yeah, it was kind of like, are they even going to go with the Dervil stuff
And
or
it
just make
seemed
this a
like
King Arthur
the
show? But
story didn't
they
even
are,
seem the same, like what they were
yeah.
like showing. I was just like, is this even gonna like focus on what
I
happens in the
think
first
it. I
book?
think the marketing team was probably thinking like, well, nobody's going to know who Dervil is,
Yeah.
and they might watch a King Arthur show.
Yeah. I think that's
So
really what
maybe
it was
that's what they were
about.
thinking. Like, we'll just show Arthur and emphasize Arthur.
But so far that there's some changes, but it's it's I'm enjoying it. And I hope
Yeah.
it keeps going. I hope the ending's good. I'm not that far yet, and I hope that it attracts more people to it, and it grows, and it can do even
Yeah.
more things
So we can
faithfully. And
do more seasons. Yeah. I hope they can do more seasons. I don't know what kind of viewership the show's getting right now.
it's on
I don't
MGM
see a
Plus
ton of,
too.
yeah, because MGM Plus is kind of an obscure streaming platform to
Yeah,
watch it on. I think you can watch it through Prime.
yeah.
Um, but I don't think the show is taking off like other shows have. And um, I I hope they can do another season or cover the other books. But if they don't get a ton of viewership, will they? Is the question.
I don't know. I don't know.
No, we'll have to wait and see. Have to find out. Anyway, let us know what you thought down in the comments. Give us that pronunciation of Excalibur
Calagastan. Calaga Fwitch.
phonetically, please. And
Cal
thank you for
Fwitch.
listening. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all your support. We'll be back with covering the rest of the season soon. But for
Like we
now,
always say, slippity boopity
dippity doo.
dippity doo.